Listen to AM 560 The Answer online at 560theanswer.com, on the AM 560 mobile app, on your Alexa-powered smart speaker, and on TuneIn, iHeart, and on Odyssey. This is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560 The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan, and in for Amy J this morning, former ABC7 political reporter Charles Thomas. Charles, mark your calendar because our next big AM 560 event is coming up Tuesday, April 25th. We're calling it Beyond the Talking Points, presented by Fox Valley Coins. It will feature me sitting down one-on-one with Juan Williams from Fox News for a moderated conversation about all of the salient issues of the day: Trump indictment, 2024 election, economy, war in Ukraine, immigration, and much more. So join us April 25th at the Meridian Banquet and Conference Center in Rolling Meadows. Tickets are on sale at 560theanswer.com/beyond, 560theanswer.com/beyond. There's a VIP reception with Juan and me. I think that may be sold out, but there are still some general admission tickets left. So make sure to get your tickets at 560theanswer.com/beyond post haste, 560theanswer.com/beyond. Thanks to our sponsors, Joe Cotton Ford and Carroll Stream, Woodland Windows and Doors, Blue Star Security, and the Blue Label Cigar Lounge in Lockport. All right.
That sounds...
yeah, we'll have smoke a cigar.
Sunday.
Exactly.
Cage match, right?
It is. Right. There will be
match.
2 men enter and, well, 2 men will leave, but, yeah. But there'll be some rhetorical punches thrown, I'm sure.
I'm sure.
Juan doesn't like me very much. He throws a lot of shade my way, as the kids
Really?
say.
Oh,
yeah.
I thought you guys would be a
Nah,
cordial.
we do.
We do a podcast every week on Monday night with a fellow named Mark Wallace, who is let's put it mildly, a liberal.
Yes.
That's putting it mildly.
Yeah.
And we go at it. It's called The People's Show. It's on Intellectual Radio, which is a podcaster, and it's interesting. I mean,
good.
But it's cordiality. I mean, no.
Maybe we'll get you guys on as the undercard.
Hey,
Hey, what
hey,
about that idea?
Undercard.
All right. Well, let's talk to the aforesaid combatant, Juan Williams, Fox News analyst, columnist for The Hill, author of What the Hell Do You Have to Lose? Juan, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
My pleasure. Good morning. And Charles, nice to meet you. I'm going to have to tune in and see what the undercard looks like.
Yeah, man. We actually met a few years ago when I was out reporting, and you didn't seem very interested, quite frankly. But we met, and I've been a watcher, a Juan Williams follower for some time.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you, Joe.
Juan Williams, he used to be with...
I miss you on the 5, by the way.
Oh.
I miss you.
Well, thanks again.
Juan, you used to be with what we now know from Twitter is state-run media, but now you're at Fox News. You stepped up.
What was that? Washington Post or NPR?
No, NPR. That got designated as state-run media, finally.
I got you.
All right, so Juan, obviously the first question, do you favor capital punishment for Trump if he's convicted?
Capital punishment?
Yeah.
Well, now there's a way to frame it, like just put him in the chair, huh?
Well, I assume that.
Working.
I mean, after he's the nominee and Biden or Gavin Newsom wins, then maybe you schedule the end, right? I mean, isn't that the attitude of the left, that Trump must die to save our democracy?
I get it. So is this the conspiracy fantasy in the right wing at the moment that liberals want to electrocute Donald Trump?
No, not. I mean, I don't. Maybe go to Idaho. I think they brought the firing squad back. But no. But so seriously, on a serious note, what is your assessment of the quality of the case that Alvin Bragg is bringing, the decision to bring in the first place?
I was disappointed. I thought the fact that Bragg had hesitated when he first took office and people who wanted to bring the charges had just left. They quit his office in protest. And so when he signal that he was going to do something, I thought, well, he must have discovered something new, and there was going to be something additional of some great magnitude, some strength. But there wasn't. You know, he still got a basic case. No one that I know, even on the right, is saying, oh, Trump didn't do it. No, but they're saying these are misdemeanor charges, and would these charges have been brought at this point, given that the crime was committed in 2016, if it wasn't Donald Trump? And I think that's a legitimate question, although I guess not for Mr. Cohen, who went to jail, if you'll recall. And, you know, the FEC has said it was an illegal campaign contribution, you know, and, you know, I understand that. But I think that you've got to, in this case, given the time lapse, I thought there was going to be something far more substantial in what Bragg brought to the table, and it wasn't there.
So, since you know you're an insider on that side, tell us the truth. This is all in furtherance of aiding and abetting Trump to be the Republican nominee in 2024, isn't it?
Well, I think people are quietly thinking that'll be great because they think that he's beatable in a big way. I mean, but it's not just on the basis of this. Dan, I mean, I think you're a pretty smart guy, so you know if you look at the track record, which is what political analysts do, you'd say, he didn't do that well. He didn't win the popular vote in 16. He did terribly in 18 in the midterms when the Democrats came on in a surge, and look at 20 when he still fell short, and look at 22 when the people he endorsed fell short. So I think Dan would agree with Juan on this one, that he's not the best candidate for 24.
Well, yeah. Although you know, it's a volatile thing, isn't it? I mean, he was up a few points on DeSantis just at the turn of the year, and now as we sit here in the spring, he's opened up a big lead in some of the recent head-to-head polling. And not that I believe Biden is necessarily going to be the nominee, but right now that's where things are tracking. And in some of the recent polling, you know, both DeSantis and Trump beat Biden. So the argument that he has to make, Trump, that he is viable in a general election, is improving as prosecutors, starting with Bragg and maybe including Fulton County and DOJ before we're done, are presenting cases that just aren't really persuading Americans that this is a matter of equal justice before the law.
Well, I think there are a couple of flaws in that soup. The biggest one is this, that the Fulton County case about interfering in the 2020 election is pretty strong, and I think that there's an even stronger case coming from the Justice Department about Trump taking classified documents and then obstructing efforts to recover those documents by the government. But the biggest flaw, I think, is this, that when you see Trump pick up the pace in terms of fundraising and his lead over DeSantis right now, that's in a Republican primary. We're talking to the base. We're talking to the true believers here on the Republican side, and Trump defines the Republican Party at this moment. I don't think there's any question about that. He may be the largest. I tend to think he's the largest figure in American politics at this moment. But anyway, but that's not the general election. And, you know, you got to think about, don't you want to win power? I mean, that's what politics is about. And I think in a general election, he looks weaker than ever.
Well, I mean, as I mentioned, some recent polling suggests otherwise. But also, too, these elections now, because the country is so divided, become base plus elections. So if you don't have a motivated and excited base, then you don't win. And sometimes your base can be motivated by the opponent as much as your preferred candidate, as perhaps was the case in 2020. But it's just, I think it's just less clear. And it's less obvious that Biden or some other Democrat just has a walk in the park if Trump's the nominee. And it doesn't make him necessarily the strongest candidate, but it improves the argument that he can make to donors and Republican primary voters. And then there'll be a consolidation after that, because I don't know a lot of Republicans that are enthused about a second term for Joe Biden.
Wait a second. You flew by a lot there so quickly. But didn't you notice what happened in Wisconsin this week? I think that's a pretty big signal about the whole culture wars argument. I mean, clearly people are upset about denial of abortion rights in this country. So that's there. But the second thing that you flew by in such a hurry is that when you think about Trump, you got to realize that he's got so much baggage attached that people who are swing voters, you talked about, get the base excited, but Trump also excites the left-wing base in this country to get out. But also, when you think about the suburban voter, especially the suburban female voter, what we've seen in all these recent elections is that Trump and his baggage and his rhetoric and his hatefulness and the threats of violence are a big turnoff. People don't like it.
Well, I understand Trump's flaws, and I'm very clear on that, and I'm very clear on the hysteria of the left. I'm just not so clear that it doesn't attach itself to Ron DeSantis as some sort of science-denying, gun-toting, don't say gay, Iceman. If he were the nominee, I mean, whoever is the nominee is going to be labeled by the left as the next Hitler, Stalin, Pol Pot. So I mean, so again, what's the increment between the two? I don't know, and it's not obvious to me.
That's interesting. You mean so you think that there is no moderate wing of conservatism in America, that the Republican Party can't be remade? Obviously am an old man, Dan. I'm sure you'll pick on me about that when we get together.
I'm waiting to do that, yeah.
Yes, but I'm going to tell you that I, covered Ronald Reagan for the Washington Post. I covered George W. Bush, and before that his dad, George H.W. Bush. And they were winners because they represented moderate, stable conservatism in America, conservative principles. I don't see Trump as a true conservative in any way. I mean, when I think about people like Asa Hutchinson, who's got in this week and said, why are we putting up with Trump? I thought, well, that sounds like a Republican I used to know. That reminds me of something.
Can I jump in here for a second?
Please, Charles, go.
I think both of you need to consider that internationally there's a couple of situations going on right now that could really affect what happens in 2024. Hey, a war in Ukraine, the situation with China, situation with the dollar, all of this stuff is going to play a role. And I think Biden has more to answer for in that regard than whoever the Republican nominee is.
Wait a second. How, given Biden's record in fighting Russia, standing up for Ukraine, holding the alliance, the Western alliance together, I think if you talk about Biden has to answer,
absolutely, because
thank you, Mr. President.
Well, Juan, my reading of the Ukraine situation, which we haven't heard a lot about lately, is that the Russians are definitely asserting themselves and the fact that they are a superpower over Ukraine. And what are we going to do? How are we going to react to that when the Russians began moving later on this spring? And what do we do? How do we do it?
Well, there are lots of questions.
Lots of questions that will affect.
But I don't think the Russians are winning. Let me just put it to you that way. I think the Russians are caught in a situation where this is a little bit more tricky than Vladimir Putin had anticipated, and I think China right now is having to deal with Russia as like a weak sister in this deal, in a big fight. They don't know what to do about it, and they're worried that this is sending a signal that is encouraging the United States to be more aggressive in defense of Taiwan.
But my point being that this will have an impact on the 2024 election and who becomes a Republican nominee, as well as how that nominee fares in November of 2024. And I think we just have to put that in play here.
Well, Juan, handicap the other side for us. I mean, what is your handle on the likelihood that Biden is the nominee, that he doesn't step aside?
I think it's like close to 100% he's the nominee.
Really?
Yeah, unless of course he gets sick. I mean, he's an elderly guy, so I mean that's possible. But short of that, the Democratic Party is pretty unified behind him. When you see Bernie Sanders, who just recently had a new book out and clearly is biting his tongue because they want Biden to be more left wing, When you see Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, even Gavin Newsom. You mentioned Gavin Newsom, Dan.
Yeah,
Gavin Newsom has said he's supporting Joe Biden.
Yeah, but I mean, come on, God, these are politicians. They always say what they say what they need to say in the moment with an eye towards where they really want to be. And obviously, Gavin Newsom really wants to run.
Right.
So does our guy here, J.B. Pritzker. They really want to run, but they're not going to cross that line yet until the moment is right. My point is to say there's no rumblings on the other side to say we got to figure out a way to sideline this guy.
The rumbling is the polls. Look at the poll numbers. There are a good number of Democrats who think they'd prefer someone other than Biden to be the nominee.
Right.
And the biggest point, of course, is what we discussed earlier, his age. So there are a lot of people who think time to move on, But again, who's number 2 on the list on those polls? Bernie Sanders. How old is Bernie? Bernie Sanders, I think he's older than Biden.
Yeah,
but he's even
like
more left-wing.
120 or something.
Yeah, he's really left-wing. He's a socialist. He calls himself a socialist. He takes away your thunder, Dan.
Well, no. Well, actually, Comrade Bernie, I think he's more of a Bolshevik than a socialist. But here's the thing. Yeah, he's number 2 because of 2 runs and because of the grassroots and all that stuff. But I mean, they can do to Bernie in 2024 what they did to him in 2020 if they wanted to with Gavin Newsom. Gavin Newsom's not in. He's not a national figure in the same way that Bernie Sanders is. He doesn't have that base that he built over the last 8 years. So, I mean, that's sort of fool's gold. If Newsom is in, you're going to see the money and the rally around Newsom, and he could clearly be the nominee if the field was cleared of Biden, and maybe even if it wasn't.
Yeah, well, look, I think, this is not because I'm talking to you, but I think there are lots of people who look at Pritzker, people who look at Jared Polis in Colorado.
Yeah, Polis is
think, gosh, is this the next generation
Mm-hmm.
of Democrats, and why are we hooked up on Biden? But you know what it always comes back to when I'm having conversations with not the politicians, but the political strategists on the Democratic side is, remember who beat Trump, because Trump is the big threat out there as far as Democrats are concerned. That's why he energizes the turnout. And they think, you know what, Biden knows how to beat Trump.
Hey, the election interference thing, since we're talking about presidential elections and this Fulton County investigation that's pending, what about should there be any reckoning with the allegations, and these are from filings by the special counsel John Durham, yeah, he's still out there doing stuff, should there be any reckoning for the election interference by Hillary Clinton and company, like, for example, the enlisting the assistance of tech geeks to hack into Trump Tower servers with the prospect of setting up sort of indicia of some sort of Russian collusion? I mean, this is right out of a Durham filing. In connection with these efforts, Tech Executive One exploited his access to non-public and or proprietary internet data, enlisted the assistance of research at a U.S.-based university, were receiving and analyzed large amounts of internet data in connection with the pending federal government cybersecurity research contract, and so on and so forth. Tech Executive One tasked these researchers to mine internet data to establish an inference and narrative tying then-candidate Trump to Russia. That's John Durham's filing in court. Is that if that's true, is that an example of election interference by the Clinton campaign?
I'm glad you put in "if that's true."
If
we
it's
don't
true,
know
is it?
It's true.
Well, it is coming from a former U.S. attorney. It's a court filing. He's making a representation before a court, so it has some weight. I'm not saying it's dispositive, but it has some weight. So if it's true, with Hillary Clinton, should she be prosecuted for election interference?
Well, the question is it true? And if it's true, then of course it would be election. But you know what? As I recall, and I'm not up to speed on it, but as I recall, it wasn't that Hillary Clinton hired this person. It's somebody that was working with Hillary.
Well, of course.
Had a relation. Okay. Oh, so now you want to change the story?
No, I'm not changing the subject. Of course, they use cutouts.
That's how conspiracies get fed, and then everybody says, "Oh, Hillary interfered," but Hillary didn't interfere. It wasn't Hillary Clinton's action.
Come on, that's like, so she has no. It's like Perkins Coie. I was like, she didn't direct Perkins Coie. It was Michael Sussman, right? Of course, all these people have cutouts. What is she managing the day-to-day of a presidential campaign? Of course not. But she's got servers in her closets that she wipes with a cloth, and she's got this guy doing that with the Steele dossier, and she's got another guy hacking into Trump Tower's internet server to establish this phony baloney Russian collusion narrative, but she doesn't know anything. She's completely in the dark. Right.
I love this. So in other words, Democrats want to run against Trump, but Dan wants to run against Hillary.
No, I don't want. No, what I want is equal justice before the law, not prosecutions or non-prosecutions based on your political beliefs. That's what I'd like.
Well, I believe in that, and if somebody can prove that case, I'm going to stand with you, Dan. We can stand outside and yell, "Lock her up! Lock her up!"
All right, very good. All right, I'm going to make the signs. I'm going to give you one when you come in April 25th. Make up those signs. We'll be waving them. Juan Williams, Fox News analyst, columnist for The Hill, author of the book, What the Hell Do You Have to Lose? And again, in town, April 25th, Rolling Meadows. Get your tickets now, 560answer.com. Juan, thanks as always. Appreciate it.
Hey, Juan, I tell you, man, you're coming in town. It's a road game. It's a road game for you.
I know. I'm worried about that.
Great to have you, Juan. Juan Williams joined us on the Turnkey.pro answer line. And now we check the headlines with Mike Scott.
Sunshine this morning, 32 degrees at 8:31 on AM 560, The Answer. Good morning, everyone. I'm Mike Scott. Chicago Fire Department is mourning after another firefighter died.